Another alleged contradiction is between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 as relates to the creation of man. In Genesis 1, God creates plants on day 3, and then on day 6, he creates animals, and then he creates man, male and female, created he, him, it says. But in Genesis 2, God creates the man, then he creates plants, and then he creates animals. But just remember our definition of contradiction. You have to both affirm and deny the same proposition at the same time and in the same sense. Here is verse 4 and 5 of chapter 2 in the King James Version. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. From there it describes the creation of man, and then planting the garden, causing the plants to grow in the garden, putting the man in the garden, and it's not good for man to be alone, creating animals and bringing them to Adam. So verse 4 says, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, which you can hyperliteralize it and say, oh, he created them all in one day. Well, we use the word day in varied ways, and so did they. We like to say back in the day. We're not talking about a particular 24-hour day. That's hyperliteralism. That's trying to treat language like math. So the era, the time frame when God created the heavens and the earth. So we're going back. It's speaking very generally. And we also have to remember our definition of earth that we got in chapter 1. That earth means land. It doesn't mean planet. So when it says in verse 5, every plant of the field before it was in the earth, we should read that as land. So he's talking about land. Now, does that land mean all the land on the planet, or does it mean a particular land? It doesn't actually say. For it to be a contradiction, we would have to assume that land here means all the land on the planet, and we are not justified in assuming that. One question to ponder is Genesis 2 talking about the day 6 of Genesis 1, or is it talking about an entirely separate creation? If it's an entirely separate creation, then that would mean Genesis 1 is describing the general creation of mankind, and then describing a specific creation of a specific man later. Or this could be describing in more detail what happened on day 6. So on day 3, God had created plants generally throughout the earth. Day 6, he creates animals generally throughout the earth. Remember, we're meaning land. But then he deals with a specific piece of land where there is nothing, and then he creates Adam there, and then creates plants there, puts Adam in it, creates animals there to bring to Adam, to show him that none of these is going to be a partner for him, and then creates Eve from Adam's rib and brings her to him as a suitable partner for him. This would still have male and female being created on day 6. It would still have animals created before man. It would still have plants created on day 3. And yet, in the particular land spoken of in chapter 2, the events of chapter 2 also hold. So, whichever way you go with it, whether chapter 2 is a further elaboration on day 6 or whether it's later, and there's plenty of theological reasons to debate that, but as far as Genesis 1 and 2 are concerned, there is nothing that is both affirmed and denied at the same time and in the same sense. So we have no contradiction in Genesis 1 and 2.